What if the crash in 1947 wasn't the end, but the beginning? The Roswell incident is officially labeled as a weather balloon accident, but for decades, whispers of alien wreckage, secret recoveries, and silent takeovers have refused to die. What if the beings behind the crash never left, and instead embedded themselves into key places of power? In this episode, we're using tarot not to ask what we believe, but what's really been happening behind the curtain. Let's see what the cards reveal, and whether we've been looking the wrong way all along. Hello everyone, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time on my channel. So we are going to work with X-Files episode 3, or I should say X-Files Inspired episode 3, and we're going to hop right into the first question here using the oracle cards first, and then we'll move into tarot for more detail. So the first question here, what actually fell from the sky in Roswell in 1947? Been a lot of speculation about that over the years. So let's see what the oracles have to say. We have release. And this is very funny actually, because a weather balloon is what the story has been for a long time. And here we have a little girl releasing a balloon. And before I say anything on this card, we're going to pull another one because, yeah, that's just too good. Okay. All right. Forbidden Planet. Oh, yeah. Going to pull another one because sometimes the messages are so clear, and other times it's like, what are they getting at here? Legally Blonde. All right, before we go further, we're going to do some speculation here. Okay. First thing I see here is we're supposed to release the idea that it was a weather balloon. Okay? And considering this says amazing, Forbidden Planet, and it has Robbie the robot on here carrying a woman. I'm going to say probably that our planet is considered the Forbidden Planet, which I can kind of understand because we as humans have probably a pretty bad reputation when it comes to anybody off Earth and even people on Earth. We're not very tolerant of other beings, and they're probably absolutely terrified to come to this planet because who knows, they might get dissected right away. So, moving on to Legally Blonde, I believe we did actually have something fall out of the sky that was alien related, okay? It says Robbie the robot, but looks pretty alien to me. I'll hold that up. There we go. And we have a Saturn in the background, and so I'm thinking this is definitely alien related. With Legally Blonde, if you remember from that movie, she was in the beginning as ditzy as they come. And nobody took her seriously. So I feel like this is what they think of us. Those who make up the stories about the weather balloon, allegedly. And give us stories that mean absolutely nothing. That was a weather balloon. No alien, no aliens coming. They wouldn't come to this planet. Just stories because we're very simple-minded as far as they're concerned. Oop. So let's see what more we have here. See how much this story expands. It's not telling us yet what actually fell from the sky, other than with the forbidden planet and the picture on it. Spirit in the sky. Interestingly, this actually looks like, well, it's a sphere, but it looks like a portal. Let's keep going. Mr. Roboto. Field of Dreams. Miracles. Okay, I'm going to say that no, release the idea that it was a weather balloon. This was some kind of alien craft, we're going to say, coming to this planet, even though they weren't supposed to. They didn't mean to come here. And whoever was in charge thought it best to treat us as though we were as simple-minded as can be. But this craft, these beings, fell from the sky, came through perhaps a portal, and what we did find is that they have incredible technology. This is twice that a robot is brought forth, so I'm going to say they had incredible technology. If you think about Star Wars, C-3PO and R2-D2, they were robots on spaceships. So maybe the beings that came from this were robotic or just the technology. We don't know. This was like a dream come true for those who believe they're in power, and a miracle too. To be able to get access to this kind of technology was just a dream come true. What can they build from this? What can they gain? What kind of miracle, brought this their way? I think they really thought it was all for them. So let's see what more tarot has to share. Now remember, we're looking at what actually fell from the sky in Roswell in 1947, and it has pretty much given the answer to that, and to let us know we need to release that weather balloon idea. So we have the Four of Pentacles with release. Yeah, they were very at home sharing that information, thinking that, that would make everybody just relax and feel good, and, stability on Earth. Everything's fine. Everything's going good. King of Pentacles. But there's definitely somebody out there controlling this whole situation, controlling a human, okay, a king of the earth, or somebody who thinks they're a king of the earth, controlling everything. And they're the ones who are deciding what to do with whatever this is that crashed to Earth. Knight of Pentacles. They were very slow in bringing out the information, and they also think we are very slow in acting, in asking questions, because as simple-minded as we are, we certainly would believe that weather balloon idea for quite some time, wouldn't we? At least that's what they were hoping for. So they just brought out the information very slowly and just gave us lines of untruths. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles with Spirit in the Sky. So yeah, this was a portal. And again, even though these beings were not actually supposed to come to this planet, because we are quite dangerous. Humans are, for the most part, at least many of them, are quite dangerous. But everybody thinks that Earth is like the ultimate planet. So I feel as though they came through the portal, even though they weren't supposed to. They came through the portal because they wanted to see how good our lives were. Eight of Swords with Mr. Roboto. Unfortunately, they did not get to see what they hoped to see, and they were taken captive. So was the technology. The Star. Well, they came from the stars, they came from the sky, and again, this guy, whoever this king is, he was tickled pink because this was like an ultimate dream come true for him. Ten of Pentacles. Yeah, this is going to be the legacy that he leaves to his family, or to the earth, somehow, some way. So this was a good thing for him, at least so he thinks. However, not so good for the beings that were in whatever this craft was, which was very technological for sure. And there might have even been a couple of robots on there. We don't know for sure. Everybody just assumes aliens, but again, it's not impossible, I would imagine, to have robots on there too, which maybe that's why AI, has kind of grown in leaps and bounds, although they don't release anything until the planned time. Everything's a plan, allegedly. All right, so we're cleaning up here, and as you can see, I clean up a little slowly with making sure that the cards are mixed even before I shuffle, because I want to make sure that repeat cards that come out are meant to be coming out and not there because I didn't shuffle well. All right, so let's see. Block that one there and this one here. All right, moving on to question 2. Was the crash an isolated event or part of something bigger? Interesting. All right. We have the Giver. Was the crash an isolated event or part of something bigger? Hidalgo. Here we have the Giver, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, or read the book, but this is a community, I believe. I had the impression from the movie that it was a community of people, but yet there were people outside of this community. This was a very controlled community. It seemed to work very well, but it was an isolated situation, okay? It wasn't the entire world. that were doing this. Just these people. That was my impression from the movie because of perhaps the ending of it. Hidalgo, on the other hand, he's a horse, and he was a part of a really, really big event, which was racing across the desert with thoroughbreds, and he was just a little paint horse. So it's asking, isolated event or part of something bigger? Well, isolated event, maybe that's straightforward right there. Or maybe it was isolated and became an event. Let's see what the third card shows us so we know where to go with this. Material world. It's always kind of frightening to see money come out. And I say that because it just seems like everything is about the money. Everything. It'd just be nice to find one thing that maybe isn't. Okay. And there's Legally Blonde again. Okay, so I'm going to say this was an isolated event. But it became something bigger. Because suddenly it was about money. And suddenly there were legal issues to deal with. Mask. The Sixth Sense, and Pay It Forward. Yeah, I think, again, it became a legal mess. And they continued to hide what actually was going on, what had happened. It was still considered a weather balloon. But there were many people, what they didn't, I guess, count on is the fact that many humans have a sixth sense when they're being played. And that this was one of those things. And they didn't have any problem spreading the word about what they thought was going on. That it was just all bogus. What was being told was all bogus. So we weren't as simple-minded as they thought. So again, the legalities of things had to be plopped in there to protect this isolated event and make it more difficult for those with the sixth sense to pull up anything or find out anything. So let's see what tarot can add here. Okay, so we have the World. Yeah, that's a card for completeness. So isolated and complete. Yeah, it was the only thing that happened where Roswell was concerned. So this was definitely an isolated event. Three of Swords. It was an event that allowed certain people to gain a lot of knowledge. It was the technology and whoever was on that craft. It helped them gain an awful lot of knowledge. But in the process, again, this card is growth of the mind, but it's also betrayal and deceit. So they betrayed us by not sharing the truth, but they gained a lot of knowledge. Five of Cups. Yeah, whatever they put out the money for, or when dealing with the material world, what they do is create chaos in our emotions. So I'm sure later on they came up with more things that would upset us, more things that would make us afraid, that kind of thing. Maybe leaking a little bit here and a little bit there about, oh, maybe it was an alien and maybe there's going to be an alien invasion, which shuts people down, or used to, pretty quickly. So they know how to use things in our material world to upset the apple cart. And we have the Emperor. Yeah, there's somebody calling the shots here, for sure, where Roswell was concerned, or is concerned. We still don't know everything. But yeah, there was somebody pretty powerful calling the shots, making sure that all the legalities were all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, kind of thing. Then we have Seven of Swords. Yeah, they definitely didn't want us to know what they found or what happened. Seven of Swords it's a card of thievery, but it's also a card of, we don't have a clue why the seven swords are stolen. We don't know why the person is taking them, because it could be to sharpen them. It could be to hide them away so that fighting cannot happen. There could be many reasons why. And they covered it up. They did the best that they could to cover it up. Most of the reason probably was monetary, but there might have been more to it that we just don't know, and they don't want us to know it. They're keeping the mask on good and tight. Then we have the Nine of Swords. Yeah, anybody who brought forth something about this not being a weather balloon, they were made to feel very anxious, very fearful in whatever way. There's a lot of ideas on that one. And with the King of Cups, this is a person who didn't care what they were trying to do to make fear happen, to make a person anxious. They had the sixth sense. They wanted to bring that information out, and they did. I also feel like this person was very, very strongly intuitive, and maybe even channeling the beings that were taken. I mean, it's speculation, obviously, but it is possible. But this person, they didn't care about the emotional games. They wanted to bring the information out to everybody. All right, so let us get these picked up again and move on to question 3. And if you're hearing something in the background, I do have my little Chihuahua who likes to be in the room with me when I'm recording, and he spends a lot of time snoring on my recordings. I just look at it as it's his contribution to you. And occasionally you might hear my neighbors mowing, and it's just life. So it's okay. We record when we can, and take whatever comes. All right, so let's get these all cleaned up. And move on to question 3. All right, question 3. Did non-human entities survive? And if so, where did they go? So were there beings that were recovered, and are they hiding basically in plain sight? Under our noses somehow. So did non-human entities survive, and if so, where did they go? So we have steel magnolias, and we have Lord of the Rings. Okay, so we have two cards here that indicate friendship. Strong friendships. Steel is strong. Strong friendships. And then Lord of the Rings, it's the Fellowship of the Rings. We know that the ring was pretty much indestructible, or the rings were pretty much indestructible unless thrown into the fire, meaning the boiling volcano fire. So I'm going to say that there were definitely ones that survived. And I'm going to say non-human entities, because in Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of different types of beings in that movie. So I'm going to say that the aliens and those that found them ended up forging a pretty good relationship, a friendship. I think it was rough at the start. Let's see if I'm correct on this. Night at the museum. Pushing tin. Okay. The way that I went previously could be a possibility. However, I see steel magnolias here. Again, human people. Granted, they're all women on the card, but that doesn't matter. They're human people, strong human people. Lord of the Rings. There were different species in this alien spacecraft that crashed to the Earth. And I really do think that they did battle, but we were stronger. Now I think that they are probably being held in a facility under guard, but I think that they're actually starting to become friends. So let's go further. The Twilight Zone. Children of the Sun. And E.T. Okay, really? These are random cards. Look at that. Children of the Sun. We have the spaceship. Aliens, space, time travel, relocation, surrender, faith. And we have E.T. and the Twilight Zone. So for many of us, it's going to seem like all this is just Twilight Zone. Kind of beyond our perception, not sure what's real, what's not real. But we're being told here that yes, there were aliens in there, non-human ones, children of the sun, non-human ones, and they did surrender. Now here it's possible to say that maybe they went home. After all this, maybe once they became friends, they went home. Let's see if the tarot will share anything else. And I think this was after sharing information about how they space travel, how they time travel. All right, we have justice. I really think that humans, I mean, this is our planet. So it was only right, as far as they were concerned, that they take control, I guess. And with the Ten of Pentacles, I think, if you look at this card, it's almost like a radar. They were spotted right away. And they did attempt to defend themselves. They were non-human entities. Things, we didn't recognize. With the Hierophant, I think while they were in this facility, I think that they shared a lot of information. We discovered that they were pretty wise and had a lot to share. Five of Pentacles. It seems that the things that they learned or wanted to learn from these aliens wasn't meant to be good for the average individual on planet Earth. Not meant to be good at all. Now, whether they were okay with that, I mean, if you think about it, they're in a facility. Who knows what stresses that they're being put under. They're going to have to fold and teach eventually, right? And maybe going home was the catalyst, telling them they could go home. Two of Swords. Yeah, it's basically the mind twist. It's almost as though these beings might be in this facility, but they've been given the impression that they are friends, and they don't really know what's real right now. They can't decide what's real. The Moon. We've got Children of the Sun with the Moon. The alien story isn't all being told in full. Ten of Cups. That's like the happy home. The very happy home. Okay, we're going to stick with the original here, because the original story I was sharing, where the humans that found this crashed object took it upon themselves. They took justice in their own hands. And when these guys started to battle, they fought back. We won, because these guys were probably, their technology was probably broken or close to, they couldn't do much of anything to defend themselves. And I feel like they were they were spotted right away, and they didn't have a lot of time to defend themselves, and they were put into this place that had a lot of scary things in it. And there were security guards, people with guns, the whole thing. Anyway, after a while of being there, I think they felt like we were not as bad as they thought, or they were being told that good things would happen if they just shared their knowledge. And what they were being asked for were things that, were not good or would not be good for humanity, but would be good for certain people. A decision had to be made by humans and also by aliens. A decision had to be made. Were they going to share the information, the real information, or were they going to just deliver a smokescreen? Take the humans down the Twilight Zone road, pretty much. Twist their minds. I think they probably had the opportunity to do that, or the ability to do that they could twist the mind, because they are aliens. So I think maybe they started giving things that weren't exactly true. Half knowledge, maybe. And until they were allowed to go home. They weren't going to call Earth home. It's not the way it looks. Or another way we can go with this is that somehow or another, we, humanity, or not humanity, but the guys who captured these beings, they somehow have a way of twisting their minds and making them think that they're being told the truth, and maybe making them think they're at home. Man, this is tough. So I will let you decide on this one, which way you think it's going or has gone. Where are these beings now? They survived. Where are they now? Did they get to go home, or are they still in this facility? I just watched the movie Pushing Tin, and it is a movie about one guy being jealous of another guy. This guy was able to kind of do the mind games on this guy. So since we're thinking mind games, somebody's playing mind games on somebody else. Is it the aliens playing mind games on the humans that captured them? Yeah, I have no answer for that. Maybe you saw something in the cards that I missed, but put it in the comments if so. All right, so now we're at question 4. Did the aliens have technology or telepathic ability that could easily overpower humans? Now, this could very well answer the question to what we just saw, since we're trying to figure out who's doing the mind screwing with the Twilight Zone. And also, like I said, with Pushing Tin, the one guy had a way of, and I don't even know if he realized he was doing it, but he had a way of messing with the mind of the other guy. So did the aliens have technology or telepathic ability that could easily overpower humans? We have the gladiator. There. Okay. I'm going to say the answer to this card was yes. To them, we're back in the Stone Age. Gladiator is kind of medieval. Yeah, to them, we're back in the Stone Age. Their technology could have easily overpowered us. So maybe they allowed themselves to be captured. Or they were knocked out upon landing and found themselves in that facility upon awakening. We have Maltese Falcon. It says a story as explosive as his blazing automatics. So we're talking his guns here on this card. So yeah, the technology, they definitely had the firepower, these aliens. The technology to just do some major damage. So I'm thinking until, that they had to have been, to be captured, they had to have been knocked out. And came to, played a good game. G.I. Jane. Yeah, for them, failing was not an option. They had to be able to get back home. Dances with Wolves. Pay It Forward. And Conclusion. So yeah, they decided to get along with the natives, to learn about humans, to cooperate with humans. And the humans reciprocated. However, there was a conclusion. Someone did win. And if the last question is any indication, where it had E.T. here and Children of the Sun here, if it's any indication, I think that they were allowed to go home. Thinking they must have given something, though. Otherwise, you know, we're not real. Or they could have been, again, the Twilight Zone card, that could have been that they have telepathic power and technology. So I'm thinking with the telepathic power, they maybe thought or told humans what they wanted to hear. King of Pentacles. Yeah, a man might think he's at the top of the food chain. Three of Wands. But there's a lot of different kinds of people out there, a lot of different energies out there that we really know nothing about. Ace of Pentacles. There's pretty much unlimited things that they could have done to the earth, to the humans, to all of us, had they chosen to do so. Two of Wands. I think they just, there was no decision. The energy that they were putting forth, they wanted to go back home, back to where they belonged. And that was the energy. They could have stayed on Earth. They were given that choice, but they couldn't fail. They had to go home. Ten of Swords. They completed the mind game. They pulled a Dances with Wolves. They pretended to be friends. They played the ultimate mind game. Page of Cups. And the humans that had taken them in were so emotionally happy, so emotionally awed by the fact that they were willing to share information, that they were willing to do anything for them after that to get information. But then here's the conclusion. Not only did they allow humans to gain a little bit of knowledge, but they did betray them in the end. The aliens did betray them in the end. We have aliens right above conclusion, because they wanted to go home. And I think that's probably the only way they were going to be allowed to go home, because, again, you know, there's certain humans, if they are humans, allegedly, that are not real forgiving, and would have probably been more than happy to keep these beings locked up for as long as they would live. So if in fact they gave some information that was factual, I don't necessarily believe it was meant to be harmful to all of us. It's just been used for the purpose of being harmful to us. Meaning those who received the information did not handle it responsibly. And that's not really unusual, right? All right, so we're moving on to question 5. So yes, they were more than able to overpower the humans had they been conscious when they landed or crashed. All right, so 5, was there a covert alliance formed between the alien beings and human authorities? Was there a covert alliance formed between the alien beings and human authorities? And you might be saying, well, that's already been answered. However, this covert alliance could have been an alliance with some human authorities that allowed them to leave, allowed them to escape. Look at that. We have Gladiator again. Same position. Oop. And we do not do jumpers. Backdraft. I think there was at least one, maybe a group, because if you think of Gladiator, they were not alone fighting in the ring. They had people that were also captured and made to fight in the ring. So there were a group of them. And I really think that these humans, human authorities, burned the other ones who wanted to keep these aliens for life. And I don't mean physically burned, I just mean that they managed to get them to escape. All right, so we've got good vibrations here. The Princess Bride. Yeah, they made nice. Excuse me. They made nice with the other human authorities. This group of humans made nice and made it look like they were agreeing with everything that they were saying, but everything that they were putting out there was pretty much fantasy. New start. Out of the past, and I've never been to me. They were the ones who allowed these entities to get a new start and kind of did something to turn back the clock. This is what I'm thinking, that the aliens gave them some kind of technology or some way to turn back the clock and make it appear as though, almost as though these humans, the other ones, didn't remember anything about these aliens ever being here. Even though they were probably the ones that took them and put them in the facility, almost as though they had their minds erased. Huh. Okay, let's see what Tarot has to share with this. And, you know, if you think about it on Gladiator, this man has a really good moral compass. What he does, he tries to do with the best intentions in mind. Here we have the Magician. Yeah, they made it happen. They had everything that they needed to be able to make it happen. Four of Pentacles. Yeah, the other humans, they thought they had it made for sure. And never expected to have their home burnt down. And I don't mean physically, but Ten of Pentacles. Yeah, they were playing the game. This group of people was saying that, oh yes, we believe in everything that you're trying to do. It is the best thing for Earth. It'll be exactly as it's meant to be. And yes, it might be slow, but it's going to happen. It's going to be completed. Three of Pentacles. Yeah, they worked together. They worked together to weave this story. These guys worked together to weave the story. This is actually their legacy. Even though nobody really knows about it. The Emperor. Somehow or another, they managed to get the guy in charge to okay this and to get them out. Five of Wands. Yeah, they messed with their energy. Made them seem like a thing of the past. Kind of did a, what do we call that? A rope-a-dope. And the Tower. Everything came tumbling down, but the people whose minds I think were erased, still to this day, I don't think they remember. They hear things about Roswell and it might seem a little familiar, but they can't grab a hold of that memory. They're still waiting for that aha moment, the light bulb to come on. Okay, so that was interesting. So I guess you could say there was a covert alliance between these beings and a group of humans. This group of humans apparently didn't care for what was happening with, you know, the information that the guy at the top wanted to get against most humans. How is the best way to destroy them? That seems to be the story of how can we destroy the human race, or except for us, of course, allegedly. All right, so we're moving on to question 6. This reading has 7 questions. All right, so question 6, which parts of modern life might already be under alien control or influence? And we're talking technology, politics, defense, entertainment. And this is not to say that these particular aliens left that behind. This is just a question. Which parts of modern life might already be under alien control? Some other aliens, perhaps. Not the ones who were allowed to go home. Oh, night at the museum. Oh, wow. Okay. So here we have E.T. Night at the museum. Which parts of modern life might already be under alien control or influence? And I'm thinking history, for one. A museum is all about history. Also, perhaps alien visitation. We've supposedly seen flying saucers and all that stuff, but we've always been told there's no aliens to speak of on Earth and never has been. Devil woman. Dark, sinister, manipulative energy. So yeah, there's a lot that we have been told that we're apparently some of us have swallowed. Many of us have swallowed. It's all manipulative energy. So a lot of modern life is manipulated energy. Dragonfly. Apparently there's signs. We're going to leave it at that for a moment. 1, 7 years in Tibet. Magic. Okay. Apparently there are signs all around us, being given to us all the time, that this is going on. Okay? And whether or not we get it or we don't, okay, they're leaving it up to chance, we'll put it that way. The powers that be, or think they are, want us to think that we are alone in the universe. That anything that we believe is pretty much all in our minds. With 7 years of in Tibet. It's all in our minds. And there is something very magical about the music. I think music is a huge, huge part of influence on us, control on us. Frequencies, certain frequencies in the music that has a lot of control where we're concerned. And with Dragonfly in the center, they're obviously controlling our history. We have had alien visitation. This card is also a card of forewarning. Almost like a message to us. This is a forewarning. Signs are being given. You're being told you're alone in the universe. Not true. You're being told it's all in your head. Not true. They're controlling us with music. But I think there's also signs within the music. If we know how to get the song message. Music, I think, is being used by both parties. So we have 4 of Wands, Night at the Museum. So according to the 4 of Wands, our home is Earth. Everything that has happened on Earth is the energy that it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be happy with the information that you are receiving, the history that we've had. That's the truth. This is what you're meant to believe. This is the energy that's being put out. But somebody's in control of the history. The Star. So here we are reiterating the aliens, that there's been more than one. And, if you think of the star, we live among the stars also. So we're not the only ones out there. Page of Wands. Yeah, they're manipulating the energy. This is a message about energy, and it's about new energy. And it says manipulative energy. They're manipulating energy. Now, when I say they are or they're, it's whoever, whatever aliens or humans working together. If that's, I mean, the question was which parts of modern life might already be under alien control or influence. And so history, they're manipulating the energy, and this is dark, sinister energy. But there's another group of ETs that is forewarning. King of Swords. Trying to give us the idea that we can be in control of our own lives, of our own minds. We need to get control of our own minds. They're trying to help us through signs. They're trying to help us, I'm going to say, from beyond the veil even. The Magician. Yes, the idea that we are alone in the universe is an illusion. A big illusion. Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands is a huge energy, and a lot of their energy goes into them convincing us that what we think, that anything we think with the aliens or anything like that, or that any kind of what would be considered conspiracy theory. They spend a lot of energy trying to convince us it's all in our minds. Nine of Wands. Yeah, it looks like the music. And, well, we've got here sun energy and vitamin D, song messages, bright day ahead, grateful to be alive. It looks like a lot of the song messages are meant to, or the frequency that they're at is meant to give us a lot of anxiety and worry and keep a barrier up so that we are not able to infiltrate the truth of much of anything, allegedly. But I feel like the ETs, that there are ETs who are trying to help through the songs also. Maybe they've even enlisted some of our past loved ones to help out with that, to try and help get the information out there. Try and help us clear our minds so we're not being manipulated any longer. All right, so we're going to move on to the last question once we've got it all cleaned up here. And if you are enjoying what I'm doing here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also share, because that helps get the channel out there too. And most of all, comment. This has been a really kind of crazy kind of reading that the cards could take me in several different ways. So if you see a different story within these cards, please feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on it. All right, so question 7. Are these entities still active, and what is their long-term goal? I think initially the way these questions were lined up, they were just assuming that these aliens, these entities, were the same ones that crashed in Roswell. As we learned along the way, they went home. But that doesn't mean that that they don't have a connection with us still. So are these entities still active, and what is their long-term goal? We have Hidalgo. And the Truman Show. All right, so are they still active? I believe that they are. And I don't think that they're willing to give up. Not easily, for sure. Not willing to give up. Trying to win this race. And when I say this race, if you look at the Truman Show here, I feel as though this is saying they're not willing to allow us to continue to be manipulated and controlled in this way, allegedly. I think they actually really want to be mutual, respectful friends. Because that's what this guy and Hidalgo, the paint horse, he doesn't own the horse. The horse allows him to ride him and enjoys his company, but he isn't owned. It's a mutual respect. Then we have the giver again. And Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. All right, so with the giver here, this card says search for truth, find freedom. And I really believe that these aliens, the ones that were part of the Roswell crash, the ones that ended up getting home because of the group of people who snowed the other ones and whose minds are apparently erased, don't even remember what actually happened. There's other aliens, I think, that are helping humans do the spying. And these aliens want to help us find the truth, want to help us live the way we would like to live, and that would be free. A lot of it has to be done in secret with the Chamber of Secrets for the good of humanity. Mother and child reunion. And there's pushing tin again. So yeah, for the good of humanity, a lot of this has to be done in secret. So perhaps they're working with the Gladiator group. I think they kind of look upon us as their children. That for some reason that they are responsible for us. For some reason. Maybe they did or said something that caused hardship, or maybe brought the not so good aliens our way. It's really hard to say, but bringing up baby is humanity, and I feel like they're responsible for us, that they need to take care of us for some reason. But there is a competition. Definitely a competition. And sometimes that competition is friendly, and sometimes not so friendly. Sometimes one group may play nice or pretend to play nice. Next time it's the other group that pretends. So we have judgment. Yeah, they're called. They have been called to do this. It's very important to them to end this emperor-like ruling and to change life for us, to change it for the better. Page of Wands. I actually think these secrets might be for younger people. That they need the younger people's energy. High Priestess. Yeah, they have to keep a lot of it secret, not give away all the secrets to humanity, to the adults. And as you see, we have bringing up baby. This is humanity, but again, I do believe that the children that are coming into this world understand a lot of the information that we don't. And I think this is perhaps alien given. Ace of Pentacles. They want to give us everything in life we would like to have. And show us that there's no limit to what a wonderful life we can have. The Lovers. Yeah, this is a choice. It is their choice to stay in this competition. Definitely their choice to stay in this competition because they feel like we're worth it. So we're talking about the aliens from Roswell that fell out of the sky, that was called a weather balloon, allegedly. And they did go home, but they still have contact with, I'm going to say, the Gladiator group. The ones who got them out of there. And that they formed an alliance, a covert alliance with. They meet occasionally in the Chamber of Secrets. And they really want to pass that down to the children. So that is what we have for this X-Files inspired episode 3. Teaser for next week. If the Roswell crash opened the door to something alien, what else might be slipping through the cracks? In our next episode, we shift focus to the shadows, where cryptids like Bigfoot and Mothman may be more than just myths. Are they here to haunt us or to warn us? The tarot may reveal truths we've long ignored. Okay, so that is next week's teaser. On the screen, you'll also see the show schedule that shows you the 3 shows that I do each week. And with all that said, and Sammy, my chihuahua, growling and carrying on because he's tired of me being on camera. With that said, thank you so much for being here with me today, going through this reading with me. I hope you made it to the end. And I'll see you again next week. Have a fantastic week. Take care.